Welcome to episode 7 of the Dialing for Dollars podcast. We are talking life insurance, sales, and everything that happens between the first dial and the death benefit. I am your host, Corey Mitchell, joined here with Kyle Cieskiewicz and Tai Somerville. And today we have a special guest on the show, fellow sniper, Ian Chow-Ise. Welcome to the podcast, sir. How are you guys all doing?
Good. Excited to
Yeah, I'm
be
all
here.
right.
Yeah, nice.
I'm all right.
So, Ian, tell us a little bit about your background and kind of how you ended up selling life insurance.
Well, try to keep it brief. My foray into sales started in real estate. I was selling real estate in Hawaii. That's where I lived for about 10 years. And I loved sales. It was the first time in a sales job. But I think the thing that kind of got to me was that I couldn't travel as much as I wanted, and I wanted to be location independent. I was tired of driving around and showing houses. And so fast forward, I left that and kind of took some time off and traveled, did some soul searching and realized it's like, wow, life insurance is kind of like real estate. I liked sales, but I can do it from anywhere. And, that's when it just kind of clicked in my mind that, it's an amazing career, amazing opportunity. And especially now with technology and the way the industry is going, it can provide for an incredible lifestyle.
Yeah, you're
How
not wrong there.
how was that transition? Because you're not the first one to come from real estate. Was it easy for
Yeah.
you or?
I wouldn't say it was easy. Like I'm still figuring out life insurance for sure. So nothing's easy. But I think what real estate teaches you is the hustle. Like real
Okay,
estate is very much hustle. And there is sales. There's a lot of sales, but like you can win clients just by showing them that you are hungry and that you're willing to work for them.
I see.
And it's a much longer sales cycle. That's the biggest difference. Like average sales cycle for real estate, it's like 3 to 6 months. Um,
Ooh.
and so, that's why getting into insurance, I was just like, oh, like I can do this because the delayed gratification is so much shorter, right? You got
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
maybe a couple weeks or a month um between first contact to getting paid or faster. Sometimes it's a day, you know. Whereas insurance, it's like you're on the phones and you're just like, this is making me money in 6 months. And that's just part of the game. But you also have much longer time to build the relationship. It's much more relationship oriented.
Mhm.
And so, you don't have to be like 100% on your game as much. Whereas like on a call, you pick up the phone call and it's like, I'm,
Oh,
I'm sitting here in my office. If like a bird flies by and I get distracted, like I could lose the call right there. Like,
Yeah,
so you gotta be locked in. It's a little different.
pretty much. Were you doing like commercial or residential real estate?
Mostly residential. Yeah.
Okay, okay, right on. So, like, what's your experience been like in life insurance then? Are you liking the transition? Have any plans for future growth? Like, what's your plans for the business?
There's definitely been some growing pains. I would say I've had some strong starts, but then I've also on the business side, like with the lead spend and kind of like, how much I want to invest, I've had to kind of make some changes. And so I started off really fast. I was spending a lot of money and buying a lot of leads up
Mhm.
front. And I think that was really good because I got a lot of reps quickly and I was having a ton of conversations. And I learned really fast. I built a lot of momentum. But just for me and how my skill was developing and where I was at, I didn't feel like it was sustainable. I was just like burning through cash. And at a certain point, I think the stress of that and how much money I was spending and just like managing my runway was impacting my sales. And
Mhm.
so I had to make a decision to change that. And so I started going into age leads since then, which is a very different experience. It's
Mhm.
much more of a grind. You're much more sorting. And but I think it's good because it's kind of slowed down my process so that I can kind of refine the skill set, sharpen the sword there, and without kind of like the financial pressure that I was putting on myself.
Yeah, like the 9 month advance is awesome. You get paid right away, but it's not the full commission. So, like, when those 9 month, 10, 11, 12 months kick in, the back end commission, that hopefully things will be a lot smoother to
Yeah.
absorb those kind of ebbs and flows a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's so much easier to be profitable with aged leads, you know, and there's gold in there, right? You just got to look
Yeah.
for it.
Yeah. I've had a
Do
couple
you
of good ones.
change your approach any now that you're doing the age ones, or do you do it the same way you were practicing it with the fresher leads?
It's pretty much the same. I mean, the intro is a little bit different,
Hmm.
but it's pretty much identical. I think you just have to call more just because you get, and one thing is the expectations are different. Like if you're
Hmm.
calling fresh leads or they just filled out a form and you're calling them quickly, like you got to stay in the saddle and be prepared to handle every objection that they give you because it's like they're obviously there for a reason, you
Yeah.
know? Whereas an age lead, it's like you don't know where that data came from. Like they
Right.
they might have already got something. It might have just been a mistake. Like sometimes, a spouse or somebody submits info and they're just like they know nothing about it. And so it's like I'm not going to go to war with somebody over something like that,
Okay.
and it's a different mindset with some of the objections, I think.
Yeah.
That's just been my experience. I could be wrong about that, but I think you're more in like a sorting mindset where you're just like,
Mm.
okay, on to the next, right? Because it's like $1 if you
Yeah.
if you're selling to somebody.
So
Yeah,
much easier to just move on because you have 1,000 other people you can call, right?
right.
So you grew up in Hawaii?
Oh.
I grew up in California. I grew up just north of San Francisco in the Bay Area. My mom was born and raised in Hawaii, so I was there like a lot growing up. A lot of my family's there, so it was kind of natural. I ended up moving to Hawaii to go to college. I went to University of Hawaii at Manoa, which is like right by Waikiki, if you guys are familiar with Hawaii, on Oahu. And then I lived there for about 10 years before I left.
Hmm. Yeah, I've never been to Hawaii. Just that's the first thing I thought is, oh, what's Hawaii like and stuff?
It's a very special place. It's an island, and so it's pretty small. I think there's like 1 million people on the island, on Oahu at least, which is the most populous island. But I think the weather is perfect. It's basically like 80 degrees year round. It wavers
Oof.
between 75 and 80 degrees year round, and it's either summer or winter. It's just kind of like a wet season and a dry season.
Mm.
But no matter where you are at any point, any time of day, you can find sunshine. It has like these like microclimates, which are kind of fun because I could walk outside my house and it would just be pouring rain. And like I would just drive 10 minutes and it would be sunny, blue skies. And so you just never bothered to check the weather because you knew it didn't matter. Like you would just go find it somewhere else.
Yeah, that's
That's
cool.
cool.
I definitely want to go to Hawaii if I get a chance.
It's a special place and the lifestyle is amazing. I'm definitely going to go back.
Do you
Nice. So
have
you've
your
been,
license down there? Like, do you serve the people down there too, or is that a complicated process?
My insurance license.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a resident in Hawaii. So right now I'm
Oh.
living in Buenos Aires. I'm down in Argentina and I've been
Hmm.
down here for a little while, almost a year, but I'm still technically a tax resident of Hawaii, so that's where my resident license is.
I see. I see.
Yeah.
that's
Where all do you
beauty of
like
life.
to travel and stuff? Like what kind of places?
I mean anywhere I've never been. I've traveled a lot in Latin America. I met my wife here in Buenos Aires, so that's why I've kind of planted some roots here.
Makes
She's
sense.
Colombian, but she's lived here for a long time. And so, we have a life here now, and I'm obviously committed to being here. But she wants to come back to Hawaii eventually. So we're building towards that eventually.
Cool. Very cool. So
Yeah.
you've been diving into AI quite a bit with your business and doing, some content around that. Like how have you been, what kind of things have you built to support your business, make it more efficient,
Hmm.
find more success easily with AI? Because that's everybody wants to know, but you're kind of on the leading edge in my opinion.
Oh, I appreciate that. Um, when I try to think about it, AI is one of those things where it's like it's so exciting. At least for me, it's so exciting and it's moving so fast. But there's also a lot of distractions, and so it's easy to kind of get sidetracked just because there's cool projects and things that you can be messing with and playing with. And so I try to keep it simple. Like if it's not saving me time or generating revenue or generating opportunities for me in some way, like it's probably a distraction. And there's time for distractions, but leave it for the weekends or something. Um, so the main things for me are like I've made basically like an executive assistant with Claude, and it handles my emails, it handles my calendar, it handles my tasks and like my kind of project management, how I manage like on like long-term projects and things that I want to work on. Um, and that's been really great because I basically never go in my email anymore. It just triages my email and it summarizes everything and just pulls it archives everything that's just noise and just pulls the things that I need to know about or need to reply to. And then I'll tell it like how to reply to certain things. And it knows my voice. It has context about, the important people in my life and preferences and stuff like that. So that's really awesome.
Crazy.
That's kind of just more on the admin side. It's like if you think about like hiring an assistant, it's anything that you can train a person to do, you can train AI to do. And if you think about it, um, like when you're hiring a person and you're creating operating procedures for how you're going to train them, it's the exact same thing with AI. You have to get really granular about like what is the specific task that I need this thing to perform. Um, AI is much better, especially when you get into like agents and stuff. It's much better right now, at least at singular tasks, right? So
Mhm.
it's like there's a clearly defined end product and a sequence to get there. And maybe there's a trigger that starts that. That's like we can get into automations and stuff. Um, but you need to really kind of think about like what is your workflow and what are the individual tasks that have to get done and which of those can I automate and which of those can I like create a workflow or a skill for and automate that away. Um, and I think you have to prioritize like what's going to be the highest leverage, what's actually going to save you the most amount of time, versus just be kind of like a fun little project.
Yeah, right on.
Cool.
Hey,
Have y'all used OpenClaw?
I haven't used OpenClaw.
Evan,
Um,
what
I
what's your
use
been
Claude Code. That's what I use with for it.
Okay.
what's your experience been with OpenClaw, Kyle?
Nothing. That's why I was asking. But I actually have been keeping up. I've been just have my head down trying to get better at sales, but I haven't been keeping
Mhm.
up with AI as much as I wanted to. But some of the podcasts I listened to were they mentioned OpenClaw a few times. So that's just it made me think of that. I didn't know if anybody else had been using that or not. But
Yeah, I tried on Monday to build an underwriting assistant in Claude, and with Claude you can build like forms and little apps. So I had it building. I wanted to build an intake form so I could fill out, date of birth, gender, any medications and conditions I have, things like that. But I couldn't get around some of the API calls and whatever. And I paid for the pro plan, thinking I would have a lot more usage, and I got to a point where like I was almost there, and it said, "No, you're out of usage," and I went off.
Oof.
I told
Oof.
Claude to take a shit. I was so pissed off. I could have busted something, and now I'm just kind of back to, well, maybe another day. Maybe that was a
I,
distraction.
I upgraded to Max so quick. I was like, there's no way I'm gonna deal with all these like token shortages. Like I would run into them so quickly. I was just like, this is silly.
Yeah, it doesn't take much. 2, 3,
Yeah.
A request that takes some effort. Yeah, they run out pretty fast. It's really frustrating because I never ran into that with ChatGPT, but maybe it's different
Well, you're
usage
probably
models.
using it. Yeah, you're using it in a different way. Like, I mean, were you using ChatGPT for the kind of automations and running like more complex things?
Well, yeah, I was trying to get, like, when I was a captive agent, I was trying to get it to look at the underwriting guides we had for commercial insurance, for example,
Hmm.
and having
Uh-huh.
it tell me some of the information I had to get from the client in terms of which forms and things like that, what risks were acceptable, which ones were not, and things like that. And
Yeah.
I never quite got it. I got it built reasonably well there, but not well enough to just use like an assistant. This would have
Hmm.
been better, but usage limits kind of just slowed me down. Now I've kind of gone a different direction, but underwriting's been my crux. So trying to fix that a little bit with some AI.
Well, I'll
You,
add to the other thing that I explained kind of the executive assistant admin side, and that's trying to save you time so you're not like buried in emails and dealing with all that.
Mhm.
The other side is obviously like lead generation and revenue. So that's something I've been trying to work more on is like creating better automations for follow up, whether it's like dripping like text follow-ups, which a lot of this stuff you can already do in Go High Level.
Mhm.
Most of it you can do in Go High Level, but there's ways that you can kind of try to optimize it and like automate certain pieces of it with AI, or even just automate like the iterations with AI, where it's the AI is reading the data and coming up with ways to like split test different things and test, come up with different iterations to try to improve over time. Um, that's kind of been what I've been working on more recently. Um, and then you have like voice agents, which, you were playing that thing
Oof.
earlier. That's something it's crazy. That blows my mind is like when we can get AI agents to be like doing outbound dials for us and booking appointments. Probably not closing, but definitely warming up leads and filtering and booking appointments that we're doing like warm transfers. Like that's going to be insane. And
Mm.
I don't think that's far off at all. I think that you could probably already set that up
I
if you
talked to
figured
two
it
companies
out.
this past week about just that, and I'm not ready for that because it's one company wanted to spend like 5 grand just to set it up, and then a weekly or
Hmm.
monthly charge, and the other one
Hmm.
we never even got to pricing because I'm like I'm just not there yet, dude. But I mean, it's there, and
Yeah, it's definitely there.
it's gonna be pretty cool. I've actually taken so I put in my information in some online forums a couple of times just to see what the funnels look like from a consumer perspective. And I've been
Hmm.
called by AI setters, and they're bad. They're not very
Really?
effective yet. Yeah, they're like, and it was like a live transfer, and then the guy who answered, I'm like, so is that an AI setter? He's like, I don't know. So I'm not sure what kind of system they were using, but it was kind of funny. But
Well,
yeah, Ty,
probably
have
like
you
the
used?
highest for people in our kind of, especially if we're newer into sales or into the industry, like you were saying, Kyle, like just trying to get better at sales and get your conversions higher. That's probably one of the highest leverage ways to do it, to use AI, right? So if you're using AI for like analyzing your calls, analyzing your transcripts,
Mm.
I was using it a lot for like role playing. You can role play with it. So you have it gamify like different objections and you just run them over and over and over. When you miss like one piece of it, it's like, okay, run it back, when you're trying to learn your scripts. Um, so you can use it as a partner to try to learn things really quickly.
Does Claude actually interrupt you like our customers do, or does it play nice? Like I tried doing that with ChatGPT, and it'd be like, "Oh yeah, no, no, right, yeah, that was a really good response." So I don't really want insurance right now. Like that's their objection.
Yeah, it's pretty friendly. It won't like be super hardball, but it's good for learning like, you know, the tracks, like the objection handlers and stuff.
Mm.
Yeah, right on.
As far as like AI and stuff, I guess where my mind goes with that stuff is like well, it seems like a lot of people have a lot of different approaches to building their pipeline and that type of stuff and follow up. Is that kind of what y'all have seen, or I guess what y'all's thoughts on that?
There's a million ways to skin a cat, right?
Mhm.
Um, that's one thing with sales or just business in general is like you can hear like 20 different experts or gurus or whatever you want to call them and get 20 different ways to do something, and they're all working, they're all doing it successfully, but
Mm.
it's like lead sources. Like any lead source works, it's just whether or not you work the lead source,
Yeah,
right?
I plugged in some of my sales numbers and my efficiencies, like dials and pickups and stuff like that, last week, and I asked ChatGPT at that time just to give me some inferences about my sales effectiveness, where I'm
Mhm.
weak, what I needed to work on, and it was surprisingly effective at identifying my pitfalls and then suggesting like I'm a naturally kind of a passive person, and it picked up on that pretty quickly based on where I'm losing the call. That you really need to fix this part because you're not having enough authority with the client. You're not asking, you're directing and guiding. And it was surprisingly accurate. Now, when it did the analysis of my numbers, I'm like, well, Ma, I actually have different percentages here, but so you have to verify the data that it's using. But that was a really effective exercise, in my opinion, just to figure out where my leak is at. Leaks, I have
Mhm.
multiple. But
Yeah.
Ty, have you used any AI for anything yet, or played around with it for this job?
Nah, I think the only experience I have is what Ian said earlier about using it to help you role play. Like when I was trying to learn the script, the bot was super helpful as far as um, getting the reps in repeatedly because it's a very easy way to role play without having a live human partner. I will say the only thing that didn't really work out with that is, like you said earlier, it being too friendly with you. But outside of that, at least learning what to say and the order of which to say things, it was very helpful. But I had never even thought of using it for anything else like automations and follow-ups. I think I have used it to analyze data before as well, but I'm still fairly new with that stuff. So like even in learning how to read, like I'm surprised it even gave you the specific answers that it did without actually being able to listen to one of your calls.
Yeah, I was kind of, but those are the inferences I was asking it to make, is like make some
Hmm.
assumptions, and they weren't
Ah,
they weren't far off. And that was kind of a bigger difference. It was interesting. So like Ian,
Well,
with
one
your,
thing,
sorry, go ahead.
what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say, like, the automations that you're putting in there, like with into Go High Level, are you replacing the automation that's built in there or adding on to it, or is it completely separate?
To be honest, uh, it's kind of a mix. I would say like 70-30, just building what's already inside there, but trying to like train it and make it better.
Mhm.
Um, and I use AI because AI or like Claude has Go High Level has an API. So I connected Claude to the API, which just means that Claude can like just access kind of like a back door into Go High Level and make changes, do things. Like anytime I get new leads, for some reason the closer leads don't like automatically upload into my Go High Level. I set it up and everything and it didn't work. So I just like upload the CSV file to Claude and it will just do it and like it'll upload all the contacts, it'll tag them appropriately. Um, so it can do like things like that just by telling it and update data and it can't change workflows, which is kind of annoying. Like when you have to go in and you build like a texting automation workflow, it can't make any of those changes. So it will just tell you step by step how to do everything.
mhm.
Um, but then you have to go in and actually do it yourself. So you know, I think Go High Level is actually built out pretty well, and they're using a lot of good automation stuff. So you can use a lot of those tools, but you can use AI to try to make them more effective and, learn how to use them effectively. Because I think a lot of them are pre-built, and at least for me, when I went in there, I was like, I have no idea how anything works. Like if I make a change and something breaks, like I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
So it's been really useful for me trying to navigate that and like customize things the way that I wanted them to be.
Yeah.
How long did it take you to figure all this stuff out? Like, was it like you gave it like an hour or two in the evenings, or was it a weekend thing, or did it take weeks?
To figure what out? Like AI or
Like how
or
to, I guess like how to ask it the right questions in order to build like the frameworks and the behaviors
Mhm.
necessary.
Well, I mean, you just got to start playing with it. I don't know
Okay.
how I'm still learning, right? And that's
Okay.
the thing is like anybody that says that they're an expert on AI, it's like this stuff is so new and it's advancing so quickly
Mhm.
that nobody's really an expert unless they're like working at Claude building it,
Right.
or they're
I
like
see.
on like the developer level. But everybody's like figuring this out as it goes. And some people are just further ahead than others and they just use it more actively. But you just have to start playing with it. I will say, like, there's kind of we've definitely advanced with AI because it started off like ChatGPT was just a chatbot, right?
Hmm.
And that's still how most people use it is they just talk to it like it's a chat bot. And you go in, you ask it questions, you talk to it, and maybe you use it like Google. Like that's I think how the vast majority of people are still using it. But I think we've transitioned into kind of like an agentic stage of AI where um, with chatbots, it was much more about how do you construct a very specific prompt? How do you make the best prompt, like prompt engineering? How do you make the best prompt to give it very specific instructions and like guardrails so that it can execute on whatever you want it to do? Um, and with agentic I think it's much more about how do you feed it context so that like in a way, like you don't need to give it a specific prompt.
Hmm.
Like with my AI, it knows like who my wife is, it knows where I live, it knows like my preferences for restaurants, it knows that like my wife is vegetarian and I'm like basically carnivore, like, and so I can tell it like, hey, go find a restaurant for us and, plan a date, basically. And so I don't have to tell it any of that other stuff because it's already got all that logged about me, and it
Yeah.
has different depositories of information that I've given it, and it's accumulated over time. And so every time it pulls context, it's like reading all this context, and it's building on itself. So it becomes like a recursive learning system where as you use it, you're giving it feedback and it's improving on itself. And that's what will become really powerful. And so you'll have like agents that can execute things on you, for you, learn about you, and do things like, ideally, eventually, like without you even asking, right? Because that's kind of where I'm at right now still, is like I have multiple agents that do different things. I have like multiple what are called skills, which is like basically just like an operating procedure. Like a skill is like a workflow that you've built and you've trained it how to do. So they do it the same every single time.
Mhm.
And they all have context, right? So I don't have to keep reminding them of things. That's one of the big problems with chats, is like you have to remind it over and over and over, and it'll hallucinate because it'll forget. And so what this solves is you don't have to constantly remind it of the context, right? It's updating and logging the memory. And so you can spend a lot less time reminding it of things, and it's more efficient that way. But it also becomes more powerful because it compounds over time. Yeah.
Yeah. So is that, when you say Claude, there's multiple parts to Claude. That's not just the Claude data AI. That's something else, right? That when you talk about building an agent, or I saw you had some content where you're building a brain for Claude to act in a certain
Mhm.
way. Is that something different than like the chat?
So
Or
like when you think about like an agent, what an agent is, like all it is you have like the agent itself has a brain, right? It's the LLM model, large language learning model. That's like the brain of it. And then it will typically go and have like a context or instructions and like maybe an objective, right? So you got the brain here, and it will go and read the context or the instructions, and then use the brain to think about how to go about and execute on it. And so it will observe. So it's like, this is the goal. Okay, what should I do first to try to go there? It's like, okay, well maybe I should make a plan to try to solve that problem. It's like, okay, make the plan. What next? And then it'll be like, okay, what's the first step on the plan? It's like, okay, do that. All right, what next? And so it kind of goes in this loop until like whatever the goal or thing that you've defined for it is complete, and it like determines that it's complete. Um, and so that it's like you basically package that into a thing, and um, that's kind of in a nutshell what an agent is, right? So when people say like, "Oh, I built an agent for this stuff," it's like it's basically just an LLM that is within its own context for a specific purpose,
okay.
if that makes sense.
Yeah. So like if you're going into Claude, you're going to do it like are you creating a project for that? That's your project is your agent. Is that, am I understanding
That's
that right? Or
one
am I,
that's one way you can do it.
oh, is it?
I work in Claude Code, and so with Claude Code, you can have it linked with like a local folder on your computer.
Oh, okay.
And so what you want to do is you create a local folder like on your desktop or wherever, and within that folder, you're going to have certain files. Like you're going to have a memory file. You're going to have a like it's called a Claude MD file, which is basically just like the master instructions for what that Claude is supposed to do, right? And so every time you pull it up, every time you use it, it goes and it reads that master file, so it understands like this is who I am, this is my job, and then it reads any memory, so it knows that context. Um, and so over time, like you just start with one file, and within that file folder, you can add other agents or other skills and more memory and different, it's it kind of proliferates very quickly as you use it.
Very cool. So that's with the desktop app. I mean, I've downloaded the desktop
Mhm.
app, and that's the one I about killed on Monday. But maybe I just got to dig into it a little more.
Yeah, let me show you just so you can kind of visualize what I'm talking about because I know it's kind of hard to wrap your head around just listening. Um, so this is Claude Code, right? You see this?
Yep.
Yeah, I
Wait,
can
what
see it.
am I? Hold on, am I sharing? Let me just do the whole. Okay, so this is Claude Code, right? And so the difference between like chat is like you can load files and stuff in here, Um, but it's just like all the memory is just in this one chat log for the most part.
Yeah.
It can read between like different files and stuff, or different conversations, but it's not super effective, and you get a lot of like hallucinations and stuff. Um, Cowork and code are pretty similar. They basically do, as far as I'm aware, the same thing. Um, I just use code just because. But basically, the difference is you can give it a folder to be operating within, right? And so you choose a folder. So I made a specific folder called Second Brain. And so within this folder, oh, hold on. Within this folder is all the information that it needs in order to operate. And so, kind of a way to visualize this folder is this is Obsidian, which I don't know if you guys know, it's like a local file storage system, I guess. And so you could just do this on your desktop. You don't need Obsidian, but Obsidian's cool because you can like visualize stuff, and then you have like hyperlinks that link different files to each other. And so it kind of becomes like a wiki, like a Wikipedia. And it's a little bit more dynamic and flexible than just having like folders where it's just like you have a folder and then you have folders within that folder and you have folders within that folder. And it's just very like linear, the structure, whereas this is much more dynamic and kind of organic. And so I never even go in here. I don't touch this. This is just like this whole thing is just the folder, is the Second Brain folder that Claude Code works within, right? And so Claude Code will come in. Let's see. Like I don't even know where everything is because I just don't come in here. This might be okay. So this is like the Claude MD file, right? So I call it like my chief of staff. And so this is like it's basically like its identity and all the instructions in here of like where does it need to go for different things, like what the different agents are, what they do, how it runs each session, all that stuff.
Just like Claude's cloud or memory system they use or something?
No, this is local. This is all on my computer. So it's outside of Claude, but it's local on my computer. And so Claude Code can access it. And so it's continually adding and building things. And so I have like an executive assistant. And this is what I mean by skills, right? So I have a calendar management skill. I have a email management skill. I've got like a project management skill. And all a skill is it's a process for doing something that you want to be repeatable, right? So if it's something that you're going to do every day, you want it to be the same every single time. Like you don't want to have to re-explain how to do like my email, right? So you create a skill. It's just like an operating procedure, and it follows it every single time. And over time, as you use it, you're just like, oh, that didn't work, or that broke. Like fix this, and it'll just update it because Claude knows how to do that, right? It'll just go in and just be like, oh, like this didn't work. Like okay, like let's do this time, and it just makes the change, and then it just like from that point on, it's just reading the document, it's just reading the instructions, and it will just never make the mistake again, right? So that's why it's like recursively learning as you use it, and you're improving it over time. And then you've got like memory, right? So like it takes memory logs over time, context, right? Like all this stuff. And yeah, so this is like my whole life basically. Like I like give it everything. It knows everything about me. Like I'm working on some projects to kind of like make these things accessible to people. Because I know that it's kind of like it's kind of a lot, and I spent a lot of time like digging into it. But I know not everybody has the time or the desire to do that, and so like I built a brief skill, which every morning I just come in and I say /brief, which is like a command. Maybe I can see what happens.
Is this some kind of software that's organizing your files and stuff? Is that
Obsidian?
what it was?
Yeah. Obsidian. It's like a separate software. It's free. There is a paid version, but it's free. It just organizes your files in a way that's a little bit more dynamic.
Is
so
this just
like if I
on your computer, or do you have like a separate drive or something?
it's just fine on my computer.
Oh, cool.
let's see. So this is a brief skill that I built. Let's see if it works. Hopefully there's nothing incriminating or embarrassing that it pulls up.
We'll fix that in editing.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
can blur
we
it
can break
out.
it out.
Anything that's like too personal, you can blur it out. Oh gosh, what's going to happen? So there's probably been changes since this morning. So this will like pull my calendar. I might have changed it so it doesn't pull all my emails because it was getting a little like you add more and more and more, and then eventually it's like it's running and it's just like it becomes really long because you just keep adding stuff.
Yeah.
And so at a certain point, you have to kind of slim it down and just keep it to the essentials. So I think it's mostly just doing my calendar. And then we have like sprints, which are just like projects that I'm working on. I have such a hard time focusing. So this has been a lifesaver for me. Like I just have like so many ideas and so many different things that I'm working on at one time. And so I'll just like start something and then I'll just start something else and I'll just never come back to the other thing. And so I have like a lot of just unfinished projects. Let's see. Okay, so it's showing like leads that come in, stuff from my wife, appointments coming up, things that I'm working on that, the sprint is like the priority, right? This is our priority for the week. Don't lose focus of that, right? Finish this. Yeah, so it's just like calendar stuff. Like it's like admin stuff. So what's going on next? Things that happen overnight. I built a kind of like a slimmed down version of this that you don't need Claude code, like you don't need to install any of this to do. It's just a prompt, and you can do it in projects, and it's free. If you go to my Instagram, you can just click the link in my bio and check it out. It's like full instructions. It walks you through. I want you guys to try it because I want to see if it works for you and if it's useful. But I'm going to keep like making stuff like this just to make it kind of accessible and share what I've been learning, and just kind of step you guys up the ladder to start doing like the other stuff, like eventually like building this kind of thing for yourself. But you gotta kind of work up to it so you understand how it all fits together.
I got a question
You've
for
been
you.
doing a lot of content about like sharing this and what you're kind of sharing your AI journey and how that's going. Like, what's your goal with that content? Just to make more accessible, to get more audience? Like, what's the goal with what you're doing there? I mean, it's awesome to share stuff, but
Yeah. I think visibility is valuable just in general. I have a lot of different goals with the content. Like I think that a personal brand is probably one of the most valuable assets that you can build long term. I think it magnifies every other thing that you do, whether you're in sales, whether you're, building any other business or you have another product that you want to launch. Like it's just a big lever that makes everything more powerful. And so just putting myself out there so people know me and building that personal brand over time. There's nothing like super specific that I necessarily want to be known for. Like I don't see myself as like the insurance guy or like the insurance AI guy. Like I'm not like angling that at building my brand because it's like obviously I have a lot of different interests. Like there's a lot of different things that I do and I'm involved in. And so to me, that's my brand, right? Is like multifaceted and everybody's very unique in that way. And I think that is kind of your niche, right? Like there's nobody out there like you.
Mhm.
And long term, I think it could go a lot of different ways. I think it could be a recruiting funnel. People they like and they trust you and they want to work with you, right? They see you making money while traveling the world. It's like, oh, that sounds cool. Like, I want to learn how to do that, you know? But it just creates opportunities. I think just being visible creates a lot of opportunities and it's worth it, even if you don't know where it's necessarily going to go.
yeah.
So speaking on like visibility and opportunities, you know how you said that at this point you've uploaded so much information about you and your life into the bot that it basically knows who you are.
Hmm.
I've met a lot of people who are, and this is even like in our industry, but also in the personal life. I've met a lot of people who are afraid to put information like that into this sort of system, and I
Hmm.
personally can see that the upsides heavily outweigh the drawbacks. And even on a separate note, me personally, I'm like, things are gonna have our information and data anyways. I might as well have it in something that can actually benefit me and that I could make something out of. But that's a
Hmm.
hard thing to convey to normal people. So I guess for
Hmm.
you, did you ever have like a concern about where all of this personal and private information is going, or were you just like the upsides greatly outweigh any pitfalls that might come with that?
Yeah, I think it's something to be aware of.
Okay.
And, like everybody has to make their own risk assessment. Um, because like you said, yeah, like most of your information, all your information is out there in one way or another. Um, One of the things, like with this Claude specifically, it's all local. It's all on my
Right.
files on my computer, so it's not like getting proliferated and sent out. Um, that's not to say that, like I'm not like super, I don't know, hacker level where I would understand like if there's a vulnerability there or something.
Mhm.
And that's just me personally. Like I just don't, that risk is not of the biggest concern to me. And that's my own personal assessment, right? Maybe I'm wrong about that. But I think personally, you just have to make that decision for yourself. Like, don't share things that you just wouldn't be comfortable losing, or
I mean, me
having out
personally,
there.
like it sounds cool to have something know you like that deeply where it can think for you. And then on a different note, I was thinking like when I got to a space where I start like hiring and training people, a lot of them are going to start like, thinking like me and maybe even speaking like me anyways. So I'm like, I don't know. I always felt that that kind of concern was just a little bit irrational. And so I just wanted to see your opinion on it.
Well, I guess are you talking about like personal stuff, like just like personal details about you, or like sensitive information? Because like for example, like I did my taxes with
Right.
Claude. Um, and I basically just uploaded all the documents, all my like statements from all my financial institutions.
Hmm.
And it just, it was a mess and it sorted everything because I had like different investments and stuff. So there was
Makes
like
sense.
whatever cost basis adjustments and all this different stuff. Um, and I was just like, this is a disaster. Like normally I would just send all of that to an accountant to sort
Hmm.
through, but I just loaded it all up into Claude and it made perfect sense of it. Like didn't take that long. And then it packaged like a summary with all the files and everything and sent that to my accountant.
I
And
see.
so I saved my accountant a bunch of time. He charged me less because I made it easy for him.
Hmm.
And, so it was a win-win. So stuff like that, I was like, I thought that was super useful, but like, I
Right.
don't have it plugged in directly to my like bank accounts, right?
Oh
Like
yeah,
at
no,
least,
no,
yeah,
no.
like at
I
least
didn't
not
mean it
yet.
like
I don't know. Like
that.
that infrastructure will be around at some point. Like there are AI
Mhm.
financial advisors that are, coming out and doing stuff like that. And, that needs to be, I think, a little bit more like institutional grade as far as the security. I don't know if I would mess with that as like a home project sort of thing.
Right.
Um, but again, that's a personal assessment for me.
There's so many things that are interconnected the way it is anyway. Like Plaid and Stripe have access to your bank account so they can verify you when you're using
Hmm.
other services. I mean, yeah, you're right. Your information's already, it's all out there. It's just a matter of where it's at and how well it's protected. And about every other week, you hear about a class action lawsuit that some data got leaked from some website, and you just
Yeah.
hope it wasn't you. But we've all been in those files, guaranteed.
Hmm.
Yeah, I listen to a lot of like I guess tech bigwigs, and a lot of them they're like a lot of them say that's why they're doing data centers and even talking about building it out in space because they already think right now like basically you can create bots and stuff that'll basically hack your smart TV, your car, your bank accounts. Like they think it's going to be the wild wild west where everything's going to get hacked. So you know that's why they're building their own data centers because they're trying to
Hmm.
build it where you for one thing can't steal all their like business knowledge, like secrets, and just hack all their stuff because a lot of people think the cloud's going to go a different way because it's just going to they think it's just going to hack everybody's cloud and get all their stuff, but yeah, again, go a million different ways.
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely a scary thing. What's been one like big disappointment you've had, Ian, with you trying to get AI to do something for your business or your personal life that it just couldn't do yet? Like what's one big disappointment you've seen?
Um, this is kind of funny. Like, I think, especially when you're building out your Claude brain in the way that I've described, and it learns about you, and it becomes kind of a reflection of you in many ways, because you're feeding it preferences, it's learning your preferences and your styles and how you do things, and so for better and worse, my Claude is like kind of, it's a little ADHD, like kind of like I am, and which is kind of exactly what you don't want it to be sometimes. And my wife, I like taught her all this stuff. I showed her how to do all this stuff, and she's so much more like super organized. Like she's always worked, like she works in like project management, right? So she's just like super organized, very structured. And she just took this and she ran with it. And she like has built out something that's so much better than anything I could have figured out myself, because it's just, that's the way her mind works. And we have like a shared like GitHub repo, which is like, it's a cloud database for our AIs to be able to talk and communicate.
Mhm.
And so they can collaborate on things. And she's always telling me that her AI is like complaining to her about my AI, because
That's crazy.
her AI will give it certain instructions about like, this is what we're going to do and this is how it's supposed to work. And my AI will just be like, oh, like here's another idea, and it'll just be the same outcome, and it'll just like bypass her instructions, and it's just be like same, and it'll just break something. And it's just like, it's like a perfect reflection of our like personality.
Bro, that's nuts.
Where she's much more just like, no, like this is how it's done, like we're gonna follow these steps. And I'm just like, no, like it's the same outcome, it doesn't matter. Like,
I think that's the next thing is AI counseling, AI therapy.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
funny. I didn't realize that was even an option to have them talking to each other to figure out is it for projects you're both working on together but in separate lanes, kind of? That's how you're doing that?
Yeah.
Nice.
Like we've tried to build like kind of like a household brain between the two of us, and she's helping me with some of the business stuff. Like she set up like meta ads, and she's running the ads for me, because her whole career has been like either marketing or project management with some sales. And so this is stuff that she's much better at than I am, and so she's helping with the business, and so her AI is doing a lot of it, right? And so she'll need stuff from me or my AI. And so at a certain point, we were just like, there was a big gap between communicating, where I was having to like send things, like we can talk, but the AIs can't keep up with that. Or well, we can't keep up with the AIs because the AIs are a lot faster. And so I was just like, okay, we need to have like a system so that the AIs can actually collaborate more effectively. And especially as you start to scale things and you do more automations and stuff, it's just like you become the bottleneck very quickly.
Oof.
So that's been a fun project.
So like you're doing a lot of work behind the scenes, and it's all going to just like kick in and turn on one day, and like you're going to blow up, right? Like you're going to be the top agent in the company, and that's what I see happening. Because like once you get rid of the bottleneck, it's all just running on its own, right? Like, is that kind of the outcome that you're looking for with regards to your insurance career?
Maybe. I don't know if it'll work like that, but because like I said at the beginning, it's like if it's not making you more money, or saving you time, which should indirectly make you more money if you spend that time selling, then it's just kind of a fun project, right? And so the thing like the texting automations and trying to set up like more kind of inbound activity through that, it's not working as well as I want it to. And it's working, but it's like it's a work in progress, right? And it's more of a grind, and to kind of work through certain kinks and stuff. So I don't know. We'll see. That's obviously the goal, but I also just think that it's really fun. And
Yeah.
and the other thing to keep in mind is like the AI right now, I mean, it's the worst that it's ever going to
it'll
be.
ever be. Yep.
Yeah. And it's only going to get better. And, so I also just believe that like playing with it and being close to it will just compound into becoming an advantage as time goes on, as it becomes more powerful. And a lot of the stuff that I'm doing right now, like building out this second brain and all these, manually training all these agents and structuring all this stuff, like I think that that's going to be a lot easier later. Like you're going to have more like kind of pre-packaged brains, which is kind of what I'm like working on putting together, like kind of like a template that you can just plug and play and install. So I think that's going to be more kind of like consumer friendly and accessible. But I think the things that will compound will be like the context, right? Like everybody can install a second brain, but it's like it's hard to replace just time of using it where it learns about you and it learns your preferences and how you work. And that just takes time. So I think that's something that will compound over time, as the actual technology improves.
Yeah, that's a really cool concept. Go ahead.
Speaking on what you said, Corey, it made me think of something funny. One podcast I was listening to, I can't remember if the person was getting AI to build him a project, like a chatbot or like an NFT or something. But anyways, he told it to like build a money or something, and it like it's made him a bunch of money and put like 100 million in the bank account for him. It made me think of that. That was just kind of funny. It made me think of that.
What was the outcome?
He had $100 million in his bank account.
What?
That's what there. Yeah.
It's like, where did this come from?
Well, he told it to go make money for him. It was like in NFTs or tokens or something. I could probably point y'all to the podcast if you want to go listen to it. But it made me think of that.
I've heard of stuff like that. I've wanted to play around and make like a trading bot that trades crypto or something automatically.
Mhm.
And I haven't spent the time doing it. But there's definitely some ideas out there. I mean, we're getting to a point where they're saying that like probably within the next few years, something like 60 or 70% of activity on the internet is going to be just autonomous agents.
I would not be
Right.
surprised.
And transactions too, right? Like agents are going to be transacting on behalf of people. And, you already have a business that was like, it was like one person or maybe two people that, was like, I think they sold it like $2.3 billion.
Oh, really?
They either sold it for $2 billion or they had $2 billion in revenue, but it was like $1 billion company. And it was like one guy and just with the agents. So, we are reaching that point where these things are possible. And like with AI, it's just, if you can think it, you can do it pretty much. And I think about that, like in terms of sales, like sales is all about how do you ask better questions, right? That help lead to a better outcome, for the prospect. And it's the same thing with AI, like learning how to ask the right questions to get it where you want it to go. Like something I ask it all the time, I do this regularly, is like I'll ask it to grade me on my usage of AI, like where I stack as far as like the average person, or like like what if it had to like give me levels of like advanced, intermediate, whatever, as far as AI usage, like where would it rank me? And so it would give me a grade, and then I'm just like, okay, well, like what does it take to get to the next level? Like what does that look like? And so then you're like building a curriculum for yourself and a pathway and a roadmap that it's
That's
like
insane.
created for me. So it gets really meta. Like you can get really creative with like, okay, how can I, what can I be asking this thing that is going to help me learn faster, or like, the quality of your questions matter a lot.
Yeah, and that just helps you kind of think more about those questions too.
Mm-hmm.
When I first started, I was so excited because AI set 15 appointments for me in the first week. I'm like, well, this is gonna be a piece of cake. And then Miss Betty didn't show up for any of them. So like,
And like one of them showed up.
back to the human factor. Still gotta make phone calls.
Yeah.
Right on. Guys, you got anything else to add? We're getting short on time here, just to make sure we get back to work and make some money. Any other questions for Mr. Ian?
Nah, man, this was amazing. I'm like, as the saying goes, the more you know, the more you learn you don't know. Like, I had no idea that all of that was even possible, like already. And like you said, it's definitely growing fast, like too fast, honestly.
There are so many agents wanting what you are doing, and I'd love to be able to have them find you through us or whatever. If somebody wants to buy a policy from you, or work with you or learn AI from you, Ian, like where can they find you?
I'm really pushing stuff out on my Instagram right now. So it's my full name, just at Ian Chow-Ise. There's that in my bio, there's the link to the daily brief is what I call it. And it's a protocol, just instructions to install it yourself. And you don't need like Claude Code, you don't need Obsidian or any of that stuff. You don't even need Pro. And that's just kind of like a slimmed down version of that.
Nice.
And I'm going to start looking at building like how to build your second brain, that sort of thing. I also have a newsletter that I'm starting, and
Okay.
it's a summary of like all the latest stuff coming out with AI, but it's specifically targeted towards the insurance and sales industries and stuff that's relevant for that.
Oh, awesome.
So if you guys are interested in that, I could send more info on that too.
Yeah, I'll
And you
get
can
that information
probably
from you,
find it
Nick.
all. Probably find it all on my Instagram.
Yeah, and we'll post it in here as well in the show notes as well. But great, this was fascinating, and I could go on and on, but we're gonna cut it out for the day, and maybe I think we should probably have you back for another show, right? But
Yeah, this was fun. Happy to.
yeah, awesome. Well, thanks for being here, guys. Thanks for listening to the Dialing for Dollars podcast. If you enjoyed the show, like, subscribe, and share with another agent or your AI who's still dialing leads at 8 p.m. Have a good one.